Hello everybody. Welcome to chapter 16 of my male romance novel, From a Stranger. Let's begin. Ilio. Danny helped get stuff out of the van. Of course, he's the workaholic. Johnny didn't do anything. Well, we carried Billy in his wheelchair over the sand. Danny brought over the cooler, the mats, the umbrella. But we helped him with the boards and Billy's backpack. Just wait until Danny sees Billy in action. My brother disappeared into a changing tent and emerged wearing a white, fashionable swimsuit that let everything flop. No Speedo there. He should know better by now. Maybe he's trying to impress the ladies. Doesn't he realize that white with that type of fabric turns see-through when wet? Maybe he doesn't care. One wipe out in that thing will turn his balls into pancakes. Isaac got the umbrella set up, G the mats, and Danny ran back to retract the elevator and lock the van. He knows about such things. That's another thing I'll have to ask him later. I checked out 2 GPS life vests from the lifeguard tower. It's not really a tower, just 2 floors. The lower is for equipment, the upper level is observation and medical. About every 200 feet are lifeguard shacks, but good luck finding the lifeguards in them. The guards are posted at various points along the beach, usually near the riptides. The safe zones are marked by flags, and most people are there, but a few wander to more challenging waters. There are a couple of dozen surfers out in the ocean, far enough from the shore not to be a problem. As a general rule, unless you are getting on a board or off one, surfboards are not allowed close to shore. The last thing anybody needs is a board hitting a child. Far to the left is a field of rocks, an old retaining wall maybe. It brings me back to the accident. These rocks are completely different from what me and Billy smashed up on, but a rock is a rock. I make sure our base camp is far from those. A few kids are on them, jumping into the surf. I used to be one of them, way back in the day. Now I only see how stupid it was. Talking about the accident earlier has made me melancholic. Time to get back to normal. Still, if something happened to Billy or Danny... Why the umbrella? Danny asked. There's a few on the beach, but not that many. You ever climb into your car after it's been sitting in the sun for a couple of hours? Billy fished into his bag and pulled out his wetsuit. It's too hot to sit in. Bingo, same thing happens to my chair. Billy wiggled around, getting into the suit. That part always amazed me. He's almost as good as Danny at odd poses as he maneuvers his legs through the holes and pulls it up. You don't offer him help. I learned that a long time ago. Danny doesn't offer. He straightened up the supplies, pretended to look busy. He was waiting in case Billy asked for help. Let me show you Billy's board. It's custom. He built it a couple of years ago, and it's the only one like it on the beach. Danny came on over, and I knelt next to the board. It's a wooden board, made of paulownia wood, I said, that is as buoyant as a balloon. It's a little wider, kind of like my wooden one. This board has 4 handles, though, 2 on each side, and Billy designed it with 4 fins in the back. He found some custom material for the grip so he doesn't slide. It might be light, but it's a real smooth ride in the water. Billy's the darling around here. Tourists have to see him ride once they know a little about him. Nobody ever imagined a paraplegic can ride. Out in the water, he's just as wild as the rest of us. Let's get you ready. I brought sunscreen this time. Danny smiled. I start with his face, using the screen as an excuse to feel every centimeter of it. Thanks, babe. Of course he says it. Of course we kiss. Then I work my way to his back. Yeah, I know, he'll be wearing a life jacket, but his skin is so warm, his muscles are so tight. I must admit, I'm having too much fun with this. His turn. First my face, and he looks at my eyes the whole time, as if he's looking somewhere deep inside me. Of course I say, thanks, babe. He doesn't just smear sunscreen on my back, but it is a massage, with his strong fingers kneading every muscle. We need to do this again after we get home. I lead Danny back to Billy to help him with sunscreen. I needn't have bothered. Billy has a longtime girlfriend and server too, Shiori. They met in middle school. The night of the accident, they had just kissed for the first time. When we were forgotten by the kids at high school, Shiori didn't forget Billy, or me. Weekly care packages, texts, Sunday visits when he was in rehab for the year. And they are still together. Shiori can help him with things when he won't let even his dad or me help him. And she surfs too. Billy gave the thumbs up. He wore a black wetsuit that stopped a little above his knees and no sleeves. Shiori helped him zip it up. Do you want the vest today, I ask? But I already know the answer. Nope, Shorey's with me. She's better than any vest. Billy's pretty comfortable in the water, but I can't help but worry about him sometimes. I lay a vest on the ground in case he changed his mind. Danny, you get to wear one. Anything you say. He put it on. Now we're ready. Shorey took her board to the water. I take Billy's, and Danny took ours. It's one of my regular boards, not the fancy wooden board. Until he can handle himself in the water, it stays ours. Outside our base camp isn't far from the water. Billy climbed out of his chair, turned backwards on the sand, and scooted on his butt to the ocean. He can move when he wants to. A lifeguard cleared the way, and in seconds, Billy is in the water. He grabbed one of the handles on his board, Shorey steadying it, pulled himself forward, tucked his legs under him, and he is on the board. Shorey climbed on hers, and the two of them paddle into the surf. I never would have guessed, Danny said. Wait until my boss hears about this. I should have been recording. The best part's coming. Lay down. Danny laid on the board. I get behind him, and we're off, passing Johnny sitting on his board in the shallows. He's flirting with a couple of girls. Boards and shallows. The lifeguards won't like that. I position myself so we're far enough from the swells not to be in the way, but close enough to get a good look when Billy makes his run. You're going to love this, I said. Danny propped himself up on his elbows to watch. Billy and Shorey maneuver their boards along with a couple of other people. A wave came by, not a big wave, more of a medium. Billy and Shorey time it, and both catch it. Shorey stood on her board, Billy laid on his. Shorey handled her board with her legs, Billy with his hands. They both have a good run that carried them 2/3 of the way to shore. Some of the people on the beach cheer and clap. Billy waved at them, so did Shorey. Then they both turn their boards so they can catch the next wave. I don't believe it, Danny said, turning to look at me. How did he do that? I smiled at him. Billy's got enough arm and shoulder strength to beat your brother's arm wrestling. He doesn't let anything stop him. That's my Billy. I tapped Danny on the leg. Get ready, it's our turn. As Danny laid down, I remember when I used to take Billy out on my board. He'd lay on it just like Danny is, and we'd hit as many waves as we could. He needed a vest back then, but a year later, he was a demon in the water. Sometimes, when we are in the water, it's like there was no accident. I line us up. Danny held on, and of course we fell in the water, laughing. Somebody came over. Do you guys need a hand? No, we're fine, Danny said, still laughing. He lifted himself on the board. I'm from Nevada, and this week has been my first time in the ocean. I'm still getting the hang of it. We chat with him for a minute, then we get lined up again. Another wave, and this time we hit it right and sail 100 feet. Isaac and G are waiting for us, and we all paddle out to catch another wave. Of course, Billy and Shorey are on the next one. I look around for Johnny and find him, in the shallows, paddling on his board. He's too close to some kids. Somebody yelled at him, a mother maybe? A lifeguard came over and talked to him. I don't want to imagine what that conversation is about. All four of us line up, and the swell is bigger than the last. It looked like the next few waves are larger than the first couple. We catch it, Danny slips a little but rights himself, and we ride. This is when life is good. Danny. We had ridden about 5 waves, and I spilled us over twice. Ilio didn't mind. It comes with the territory, he said. Do you mind if I drop you off and I catch the next couple by myself? We have to leave soon, and these ones look a little bigger. That's fine. I'll relax in the shallows. Ilio dropped me off, and I jumped in water that came up to my waist. You should be fine as long as you don't go any deeper. If I do, will there be dolphins again? He smiled and turned his board around. That doesn't happen very often. You got so lucky. Have fun. Catching some current, Ilio sped away. He's gorgeous when he's on the board. He's gorgeous when he's off the board as well. I waded a little closer to shore. A mother was teaching her kids how to float in one section. In another was a couple of teens tossing a frisbee. Johnny was near, sitting on his board and chatting it up with a couple of girls. The mother yelled something at him. A lifeguard came over. Okay, I'll probably hear about it later. The two guys kept missing each other with the frisbee, and finally it landed by me. I threw it back, and the next moment we had a 3-way game. First one guy threw, then the other, then me. What's with the vest? One asked, and threw it to me. First time in the ocean? The other asked. I'm Danny, and I'm from the Mojave, I said, tossing it to the next person. I don't know how to swim. My boyfriend is making me wear it. I wondered if I should have said that. Which one is he? The second teen asked. I scanned the waves. That one. Red board shorts. He's riding a light blue board. Down the next wave he came. Ilio balanced perfectly. Yes, I forgot everything else. The frisbee landed a short distance from me. I pushed through the thigh-deep water, half diving to get it. Thunk. Something hit me on the side of my head. Hard. I flailed my arms, hitting something. A huge splash. Danny! Idiot, you knocked me off my board! It hurt. Hard. I blinked. Something moved around me. I tried to stand. Where was the ground? My head throbbed. I placed my hand over the sharp pain and doubled over. No ground. I thrashed with my arms. Couldn't feel anything. You jerk, he doesn't know how to swim. I tried kicking, or spinning, or standing. Somebody grab him. No ground. I opened my eyes. I didn't see land. No land. The current was moving. I stretched my toes. Couldn't feel anything. Get the lifeguard. I spun myself. There was the beach. It was so far away. How had I gotten out so fast? I felt my head. Was I bleeding, or was it water? Had to get back. I bobbed in the waves. Up, I could see the shore. Down, I saw nothing. I spun a little, flailing my arms. I tried to push against the current. It didn't matter. The ocean had its own plans for me. My head hurt. First things first. I must be in one of those currents that pulled you out to sea. Find one that doesn't. On the next swell, I looked for the beach. Oh my God, I was farther than before. I wonder if I could float all the way to New Zealand. Maybe I'd see more dolphins this time, or killer whales, or swordfish. I had the vest. Illy would find me, I hope. I drifted. Had I passed out? I couldn't do anything but float. I turned around and watched the next wave. There was Billy and Shiori riding again. Shiori stood, Billy lay. Can fish surf? My head hurt. Could you surf to Australia from here? It's only a few thousand miles. What's the world record for distance surfing? Billy had a perfect ride. Shiori almost did, but wiped out at the last second. Someday I would do that. Ride the wave, that is. I think I knew how to fall into the water. My head still hurt. I splashed water on it and watched the next wave line up. Ilio and Isaac and G sailed through. Someday that would be me. Hey, you need a lift? It was one of the lifeguards on their huge boards. He was fast, grabbing that board and riding all the way out here. You better hurry before I drift to New Zealand. He laughed a little. Let's get you home. He helped me onto the board, stopping to look at the side of my head. I felt it. It felt like the size of a soccer ball. Is it bleeding? I don't see anything, but let's get you back to the EMTs and make sure you're all right. He somehow surfed that huge board back to the beach and right on up to the shore. Wow, I want a board like that. 2 more lifeguards lifted me off the board and escorted me to the sand, and a couple of people were there with a gurney. Johnny was there, his board thrown to the sand, and he was wearing a beach towel. A police officer was talking to him, as well as a couple of lifeguards. They were arguing or yelling about something. I didn't pay them any attention. One of the EMTs put on rubber gloves and gingerly looked over the bump. Neck brace? Get it ready, one guy said. I guessed he was the head EMT. Are you dizzy? One guy asked. He shone a little flashlight in my eyes. A little. Mostly. It just hurts a lot. What's your name? Danny Roberson. Do you remember where you're from? The little town in Nevada. Who's your boyfriend? Ilio Smith. What's the last thing you remember? I was diving for a frisbee. I came up, hit something. I don't know what, and then I couldn't touch the ground. He doesn't know how to swim, one of the frisbee throwers said. His boyfriend made him wear the vest, the other said. They took my blood pressure, pulse. I bet that was high. Asked me more questions. They debated whether I needed the collar thing around my neck, took the vest off, and made me lay down on the sand. This is your 3rd incident. You're banned from the beach for the rest of the day. A 4th incident of any kind, and you'll be banned for the month. They weren't talking to me, I don't think. Do you feel nauseous? He humiliated me. That was Johnny, I think. What are you going to do to him? A little, I said to the EMT. Is he going to be okay? I couldn't keep track of who was speaking. The sky above me started spinning a little. I closed my eyes. Someone touched me on the shoulder. Where's your friends? Who are they? Out in the water. Ilio and Billy and Shiori and... You can keep the frisbee. It was his fault. I was still holding the frisbee. Being a not boring person was a little more dangerous than I thought.